Now let's go a bit 3-4 steps backwards. We have straight away seen a transplantation talk. First we'll go and see how we diagnose imaging features of Budd-Chiari syndrome. So, single slide on the history. It was first described by English physician George Budd in 1845 and Austrian pathologist Hans Chiari in 1899. Basically, Budd-Chiari syndrome, why are we discussing today? Because it is a cause of portal hypertension and ultimately it can lead to liver failure. Basic pathology is impaired in the hepatic venous drainage. There is basically blockage of the hepatic outflow tract. Vis-a-vis cirrhosis, where there is obstruction in the inflow pathway. Obstruction can occur from the level of the hepatic venules to the IVC, can be complete or incomplete. It can be primary or secondary. Primary, mostly it is due to some systemic disease like a prothrombotic state. And secondary is mostly due to some infection, tumors or cyst which is right sitting at the ostium of the hepatic venous drainage. And clinically it can be of fulminant, acute, subacute or chronic types. So there are two variants. One is the classical BCS and one is the hepatic vena cava BCS. Classical BCS is one which is much more common in the Western population. It has a known etiology. It is acute and more severe. While hepatic vena cava variant of BCS is mostly seen in Asian population, its cause is generally idiopathic or membranous obstruction of the IVC, which is a sequelae to a thrombus, and it is a chronic variety and less severe form. There has been systematic reviews which have been recently published and which also shows that isolated hepatic venous type of BCS is more common in the Western population, and involvement of IVC and hepatic veins and IVC is more common in the Asian population. And the isolated IVC variant of BCS is almost endemic in Nepal. Role of diagnostic radiologist. Role of diagnostic radiologist lies first to diagnose this condition, but it only comes with experience. Then clinically it has to be guided by a gastroenterologist or a hepatologist. Then you have to identify the number of hepatic veins involved, the IVC involved or the both are involved, length of stenosis, whether it is short segment or long segment, and also you have to characterize nodules which are present in BCS. Imaging findings, we have direct signs and indirect signs. Direct signs are hepatic vein or IVC thrombosis, hepatic vein or IVC stenosis or webs. Then you have alterations in hepatic parenchyma, morphological changes, alterations in hepatic perfusion, the collaterals, the nodules, and ultimately the portal hypertension. Now we will see each of the imaging findings in detail and the imaging appearances. Hepatic vein thrombosis can be complete or incomplete, can be focal or extensive, can involve one or more hepatic veins. On ultrasound, which is usually the first modality of choice, the acute stage you have the hypoechoic and heterogeneous appearance with expansion of the lumen of the hepatic veins or IVC, then which progresses to hyperechoic appearance, ultimately hyperechoic fibrotic cord, and ultimately it results in non-visibility of hepatic veins. On CECT and CAMR, there is a filling defect with non-visualization of the hepatic veins. Hepatic vein stenosis can be focal or diffuse, can be partial or total, and it can involve the ostial segment or it can involve a more proximal segment. Color Doppler ultrasound is the gold standard modality. On color Doppler there is localized increase in flow velocity, there is aliasing effect, loss of triphasic pattern, there is continuous monophasic pattern, and there is reversal of flow. On CT and MR, to diagnose hepatic vein stenosis is very challenging, but an indirect evidence is delayed enhancement of liver with dilatation of hepatic veins. To know what is abnormal, first we should know what is normal. Normal appearance of hepatic vein, the Doppler ultrasound reveals triphasic pattern. This is the systolic and the diastolic waves which are antegrade, which shows antegrade flow towards the heart. And portal flow is usually antegrade, hepatopetal with slight undulations, and the velocity ranges from 16 to 40. Now this is a case of acute chronic BCS, where we can see these hepatic veins which show some expansion and heteroechoic contents within the lumen. The right hepatic vein which is almost like an hyperechoic fibrotic cord. So this was diagnosed on color Doppler ultrasound. This was a case of acute or chronic BCS, and the patient also showed there was reversal of flow in the portal vein. An example of hepatic vein stenosis seen on Doppler, you can see the proximal hepatic veins and the aliasing effect, but the ostial segment, there is lack of color flow. And also when we try to take the Doppler pulse ultrasound, we can see the monophasic waveform. And what does it look like on CT? You can see this image, the liver is almost completely filling the right upper abdomen and reaching up to the mid abdomen. There is impressive hepatomegaly, heterogeneous enhancement of the liver parenchyma, and what we can see here is the thrombosis of the hepatic veins. Also in this case there was thrombosis of the portal vein reaching up to the splenoportal axis. And also this is, you can see the presence of ascites, which is also an indirect evidence of acute BCS. These are some examples which shows webs. This is an IVC web with, due to prolonged thrombus, which you can see a calcification. Also you can see a web within the hepatic vein and the features of chronic liver disease and portal hypertension, in this case of chronic BCS. Another example where you can see this linear thin membrane like structure, which is the IVC web. It is very difficult to see these webs on axial scans. Best is to use coronal reformatted or sagittal reformatted images, change the window settings, then you might see web. Then alterations in hepatic parenchyma and perfusion. In acute stage, there is usually heterogeneous and hypoattenuating with patchy enhancing areas. There will be a difference in signal intensity between the central and peripheral zones. In the acute stage, peripheral areas will be hyperintense on T2 and hypointense on T1. In subacute and chronic stage, it will result in fibrosis and cirrhosis. Then alterations in hepatic perfusion are best appreciated in acute stage, where there is reversal of portal flow in the portal zone and preservation of portal flow and arterial flow in the central zone. Also some fancy terms have been given, like mosaic enhancement, which is very difficult to describe what does actually it means. Then also there is a fan-shaped enhancement and there is a reverse enhancement in the late phase. Then we have, depending upon the stages, we can actually identify which stage actually the patient has presented to us. The best imaging modality for this is the MR. In acute stage, on T1 there will be decreased signal intensity in the periphery, and there will be heterogeneously increased signal on T2 in the peripheral regions. Post contrast, there will be increased enhancement in the caudate lobe, decreased enhancement in the periphery, and late phase there will be reversal of enhancement. Subacute phase, T1, T2 imaging appearances will be same, but on late phase there will be more of homogeneous enhancement, and the peripheral portion will show subtle increased enhancement. Chronic phase, there will be no differential signal intensity and there will be no differential enhancement. Morphological changes, acute stage there will be hepatomegaly with smooth liver contours. Subacute and chronic stage there will be dysmorphic liver, irregular margins, atrophy, hypertrophy complex, and also caudate hypertrophy. An example of acute BCS where you can see this enhancement, which is also described as a mosaic type of enhancement, and this area which you can see the peripheral portion, which is more of hypoattenuating, and this patchy areas of enhancement due to retention of contrast within the sinusoids. This is more of a subacute stage where you can see in the delayed phase there is some enhancement in the periphery. This is more of an acute and chronic Budd-Chiari. Chronic why? Because there is enlargement of the caudate lobe. Acute because there is presence of ascites and hyperintensity in the peripheral region of the liver. This is a more of a chronic Budd-Chiari where you can see these collaterals, the comma-shaped collaterals, and features of chronic liver disease and portal hypertension. Now, another indirect evidence is intrahepatic collaterals. This is a highly specific indirect sign. There is communication between the hepatic veins, pericapsular veins, collaterals of IVC, and veins of segment 1. It is usually absent in acute stage, prominent in chronic stage, and these are usually comma-shaped collaterals. This is an example of a chronic BCS where you can see some comma-shaped, funny-looking collaterals within the liver parenchyma. Sometimes this is only an indirect clue that we are dealing with chronic BCS. Another case where we could see this comma-shaped collaterals, and incidentally the patient also had liver abscess. On hepatic venogram, actually on CT you are only seeing one or two intrahepatic collaterals, but actually there is a mesh of collaterals which is better appreciated on this hepatic venogram and also known as spider web appearance. Then we have extrahepatic collaterals which are different than you see in cirrhosis. In cirrhosis you see mostly photosystemic shunts, but here we are mostly seeing cavo-caval collaterals. Cavo-caval collaterals, they are basically 3 deep and 1 superficial. The deep ones are the between left renal vein and hemiazygous vein, lumbovertebral to azygous collaterals, phrenic pericardiophrenic collaterals. And 1 superficial collateral which is intrahepatic collaterals which communicate with the inferior epigastric and superficial epigastric veins. Once you see these collaterals, this is also an indirect evidence that there is some IVC thrombosis or IVC involvement. An example of the extrahepatic collaterals are, these are, here you can see the pericardiophrenic collaterals and dilated azygous vein. Here you can see dilated azygous vein, the intrahepatic collaterals. In this image you can see the subphrenic collaterals. Here you have the hemiazygous and the renal collaterals, and in this case the inferior epigastric and the superficial epigastric collaterals. The characterization of nodules, this is the most trickiest part, and there is usually frequent problems when you need to characterize these nodules. Nodules are mostly regenerative FNH-like nodules, and the etiology is mostly because of chronic low portal perfusion which leads to hyperarterialization and proliferation of hepatocytes. Also there is increased risk of HCC. The range is quite wide, ranging from 2 to 51%, and ultrasound screening and AFP 6 monthly is usually indicated in these patients. And nodules, how to characterize whether these are benign or malignant? In HCC, we all know that there is classical, it's a hypervascular lesion with washout, T2 hyperintensity, but a regenerative nodule in BCS is hypervascular, but it won't show washout. And it is usually hypo on T2 weighted images. And indirect evidence is, in HCC there is vascular invasion and growth, while in regenerative nodules these are stable in size. Now example, now in this case of a Budd-Chiari syndrome, you can see this hyperattenuating enhancing nodule, and on delayed phase you can see that this nodule has shown some retention of contrast. It is not showing washout. And if you see carefully, you can see more number of subcentimetric nodules scattered in the liver parenchyma. So these are regenerative nodules. An example of an HCC in a Budd-Chiari, this is an arterial phase and these are the delayed phases. Arterial phase, you are hardly able to make out the nodule. But on the venous phase, you can see this exophytic nodule, and within the center you can see some ischemic area within the nodule. We were also not sure whether it is an HCC or a regenerative nodule by just looking at this image. Best thing is look at the AFP levels. AFP levels in this patient was raised. Then we suggested the patient should undergo MRI. Contrast enhanced MRI was done, which now you can see there is subtle arterial enhancement, retention, but not exactly washout, but ancillary feature of diffusion restriction within this nodule, which was suggestive of HCC. So characterization of nodules is not that simple in Budd-Chiari. Best thing is when you are in doubt, look at the AFP levels, discuss with your gastroenterologist, hepatologist. Don't hesitate to follow up these patients, and if required, you should do biopsy. It is not even easy for pathologists because these are borderline lesions and there is a lot of morphological atypia in these lesions. The last indirect feature is features of portal hypertension. Photosystemic shunts will be seen, ascites and splenomegaly. An example of photosystemic shunt, late stage of chronic Budd-Chiari syndrome. Here you can see the intervention hardware which is placed in the vessel. The liver parenchyma which shows almost this cirrhotic architecture, splenomegaly, and these saccular varices draining into inferior mesenteric vein through the photosystemic shunts. Now for a diagnostic radiologist or for a clinician or some young students, which imaging strategy is the best? There is no any consensual data and no any imaging modality has been validated till now. But the best approach is first the patient should undergo Doppler ultrasound. Almost 80% of the cases will be diagnosed on Doppler. If unclear, then go for triphasic CT or MR. Still you are in doubt, discuss with gastroenterologist, hepatologist, and if there are strong suspicion of an outflow pathology, you should go for a liver biopsy or a venography. And these cases are actually best reserved for chronic type of Budd-Chiari or small hepatic veins involvement of BCS, which imaging is very difficult to diagnose. Management, I think it will be discussed in the next slides. Then this is a basically stepwise approach. First anticoagulation, then angioplasty stenting, TIPS, and then ultimately transplant. And we can see the survival analysis curve, which has shown the great improvements and the advancements in intervention radiology. The survival rate has increased from 50% to 90% in the current era. Now, as a diagnostic radiologist, imaging in Budd-Chiari syndrome ends here, but just small few words on post-intervention imaging in TIPS. So, post-intervention imaging TIPS, normally there will be wall-to-wall color flow, there will be monophasic pulsatile flow within the shunt, hepatopedal flow in the main portal vein, hepatofugal flow in the branches. The main portal vein velocity will be more than 30, and the peak shunt velocity should be more than 50. This is an example of a TIP stent where you can see some turbulent flow within the shunt, hepatopetal flow in the main portal vein, and fugal flow in the branches. And when do you say that the TIPS is not functioning well, or there is a TIPS malfunction? When it shows focal turbulent flow, abnormal high velocities, that is more than 190, abnormal change in velocity compared to previous exam. Usually the cutoff is actually 50. Around, if there is difference in 50, velocity of 50, then it is a strong suspicion that the TIPS is not functioning. But you have to ultimately look at the clinical parameters also. Then hepatopetal flow in the intrahepatic branches, low velocity in the shunt, and non-pulsatile flow, decreased flow in the main portal vein, absence of flow, or hepatofugal flow in the main portal vein. So take-home message for imaging in Budd-Chiari is, in acute BCS, there is acute vascular thrombosis, there is mosaic or heterogeneous enhancement of the liver parenchyma, there is ascites, pleural effusion, hepatomegaly. Chronic BCS is, these are the tricky BCS, and it requires a lot of experience actually to diagnose these chronic variants. And basic indirect clue is non-visibility of hepatic veins, dysmorphic liver, caudate lobe enlargement, pseudocirrhosis, collaterals, and portal hypertension. Ultrasound and MR are key examinations. Major features are occlusion of hepatic veins and intrahepatic collaterals is an indirect evidence. Then when you see a nodule, always look at the AFP levels. Don't hesitate to follow up and biopsy these lesions if required. And beware of chronic tricky asymptomatic variants of BCS. Thank you.